I put my rent check at the time in this mailbox, which was $2,000. And I looked out the window and I see our landlord, this 65-year-old little Latina woman, coming and taking a bunch of checks. And I was like looking around at the apartment complexes. I was like, there's like 20 units in this place. And I mean, I went to school for finance. I know that the 2,000 times 20 is like $40,000. And I'm like, did she just collect $40,000? Yeah. So house hacking is the best way to invest, period.
Agreed.
But what it is, you buy a house, a 1 to 4 unit property with typically 3 to 5% down. You have to live in it for 1 year. And while you're living there, you can rent out the other parts of the house to subsidize or totally cover your mortgage. And it's a great way for you just to start building wealth. And then after that year is up, you can move and do it again.
Welcome back, or welcome to the Conscious Investor Podcast, the show where we talk about health, mindset, and wealth building strategies. Today, I am so excited to have a friend that I have known, but I haven't had an opportunity to really tease apart this story. And I've been on his podcast and such, and he's going to be speaking at the Conscious Investor Growth Summit 2025. This is an opportunity to hear and see an entirely different part of Craig Curelop. So I'm super excited to have the FI guy in the house. And I'm just going to let you introduce yourself. But first, let's just warm welcome, my friend. So glad you're here.
Julie, thank you so much for having me. It's just been so amazing to get to know you a little bit more in the past year or so. And yeah, for those that don't know me, I'm Craig Curelop, aka the FI guy on Instagram and on some other accounts. And I started most of my real estate investing journey off just really in a job that I hated. And so I was in a job that I, like most of us, just couldn't stand, and decided I needed to get into real estate. Decided I did not want to do that for the rest of forever. And so I kind of picked up my bags. I moved to a city called Denver, Colorado, and started working for this little company called Bigger Pockets, which hopefully a lot of you guys have heard of. And I started surrounding myself with real estate investors when I moved to Denver. I didn't know a soul there. And I was like, the only friends I'm going to make are going to be real estate friends. And that's pretty much what I did for the first year or two that I was there. And, I bought my first couple properties. I was quote unquote financially independent after 2.5 years or 3 properties, mainly because I was living off of so little that, my passive income, I was at maybe $3,000 a month. And I was like, okay, I'm there. And so with that, I was able to take a bigger risk. I was able to quit my job at Bigger Pockets, become a full-time real estate agent, which has an unlimited cap of income, by the way. I highly suggest you getting into a career where you have an unlimited cap. And in that first year being a real estate agent, I made 10x than I made the year before at Bigger Pockets. And so that really was a huge inflection point in my career and my life for me. And then I've been able to, continue to grow ever since.
All right, we're diving in. We're going to get meaty. And I know that you've been on so many other podcasts, as have I, and we're fellow podcasters. So why Denver? Out of all the places in the entire country, from where to Denver?
Yeah, so I was living in the Bay Area at the time, doing a thing called venture debt, which for you real estate folks out there, it's like essentially I was working for a hard money loan company, but for startups. And it wasn't fun. It just sounds cool, but it really wasn't. And I actually applied to 250 jobs in one weekend, 249 of which were in Florida, and one was in Denver. But the one in Denver was Bigger Pockets, right? And so it was a no-brainer to take this job at Bigger Pockets, which was a company that I was following. I was listening to the podcast. I had read all the books. I was like the biggest fanboy at the time. And so when I was accepted into that position, I was like, heck yeah, let's go. And so Denver it was.
That's really wild. It's really interesting how God will put us in these positions very deliberately. So, for example, the house that I currently live in was the only inhabitable house when we were moving to North Idaho. And it was it sat on the market. It was a great house. It sat on the market. And then we were able to buy it. So it's interesting how God gives us things nope, all the applications, the one random place. I love it. Now, what sparked the whole, what was the impetus for investing to begin with? Was this like, hey, I graduated, I went to college, I wanted to become an investor, and this was the track I was on? Or was there something more to that?
No, so I graduated college hating real estate, and I wanted to be a capital, venture debt, finance bro guy, making a ton of money, that kind of thing. And I realized that that world was not for me. Like I did not see myself. I looked at my boss and my boss's boss, and I was like, I don't want to be these people. And if I continue in my career, that's what I'm going to be. And so I start. Actually, an intern of mine introduced me to real estate, believe it or not, because his dad bought like a 9 unit apartment complex 25 years prior. It was paid off. And that was basically his retirement. And he was able to retire early at like 45 or 50. And I was like, oh, that'd be awesome if I could retire at 45 or 50. Now, this is before I realized you could retire much earlier than that. And so then I just kept, God just kept putting these real estate people into my life. And maybe I just noticed it. But then I was like, I went and I put my rent check at the time in this mailbox, which was $2,000. And I looked out the window and I see our landlord, this 65-year-old little Latina woman, coming and taking a bunch of checks. And I was like looking around at the apartment complexes. I was like, there's like 20 units in this place. And I mean, I went to school for finance. I know that the 2,000 times 20 is like $40,000. And I'm like, did she just collect $40,000? That's nuts. And so then like all of these, I just kept seeing real estate pop up all over. And so I started learning about real estate. I went to Bigger Pockets. I read their books. I started listening to their podcast. And I did this like month-long trip through South America. And that's when I was just like, I know my next move. And it's to get the heck out of California. And it's to go to somewhere where I can do real estate. And that's when I applied to those jobs and ultimately landed on one of Bigger Pockets.
Okay, that's amazing. Let's backtrack just a second. This is so much fun because this is so interesting. Okay, what was it that you saw about those bosses and the people around in the venture debt space that you're like, actually, that's not my role model. That's not who I want to grow up to be.
Yeah. Well, so I was in a cubicle, and again, 30 feet down the hall was these guys in an office. And so, one, they were in the same exact place as me, literally, physically, right? And I was like, okay, I definitely don't want to be in this office in 20 years. Two, they would always be really late, and I would always have to, just the way the finance culture works is I had to be in before them and I have to leave after them. And so I could literally be doing nothing, and I would just be like waiting for them to leave, and they would be there so long. And I could see it's because they didn't want to go home to their family. And like they didn't have a good relationship. And I literally saw people cheat on their wives. Like in, we did a trip to New York and I saw this guy like flirting with another woman. And I'm just like, if this is who, like the morals not aligned, right?
Right.
And so I was just like, I don't want to be like these people. And I know that saying that everybody knows, you are the five people you hang around with. And so it was kind of like my telltale sign out. And then not only that, but like my boss's boss, the guy who owned the company, he was making, hundreds of millions of dollars a year, but he was like such a mean person. Like he would come in yelling at everybody always. And funny enough, I think he might be in jail now. He was part of that scandal of like really rich people paying colleges to let their kids into their school.
Oh my
Did you hear about that a couple years ago?
No, I
Yeah.
didn't. But there's always some scandal
Oh,
going on.
yep. And so I'm just like, I have to get out of this place. Like, I just want to live like a wholesome life. I want to be wealthy. I want to, have an abundant life, but I don't care to have all this glamour and glitz. And I'd rather have a happy family and look forward to going home to my family.
And maybe they will want to see me also.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. All right. So that is really amazing. Now when we think about retirement, everyone has a different idea of what retiring means. This is what I have come to terms with, is that I have a friend who has retired like 3 times. And I'm like,
Hmm.
so what is retire? So we had a conversation. I said, well, what does retirement actually mean to you? And I think that's a really interesting question in the investing space specifically, because we have so many people who, I want to leave my W-2 job. I want to be financially independent. I want to be able to retire. And a lot of times those terms are really ambiguous and they're not defined. And so we hear someone say, I wanted to retire by this age, or I wanted this lifestyle. So can you tell us like your container basically of like what did retirement mean to you?
Yeah. So at the time, retirement meant to me that I could live off of my passive income. And for me at that time, I was a single guy that did not spend a lot of money and I was pretty frugal. And so it was quite easy for me to retire early. Like I technically could have retired when I was 26. And I mean, I kind of did maybe, right? I quit my job and I decided to go full time into real estate. Now, like if I had the opportunity to travel, I would have, but something happened when I was 26, a little thing called COVID. Um, and so like I wasn't able to really travel. Right. And so I was like, well, I might as well go all in and just try to like build some wealth and build something out of this. And so that's when I did my first year in real estate as an agent, an investor friendly agent in the Denver market, and did over 100 deals in my first year. And that was like when I mean, it was like, whoa, like I've never seen this much money before. And also I'm like really making an impact on people and helping them achieve their goals. So I can't just quit. I want to like build a team. So I decided to build a team so I could, leave an impact and be able to help more and more people. And so I did that for a couple of years in 2021 and 2022, kind of at the heyday of real estate investing. And then I got hit by a piece of God humbled me and basically was like things got harder as interest rates went up. And so then I actually got back into production myself. And now even to this, and I realized I actually really do helping people one on one. And so now still have the team. The team is great. We have a bunch of really good investor friendly agents, and they're basically just little duplicates of me. But I'm also helping some people out as well, in Idaho and in Colorado. So,
I love that because it's really, what does retirement mean to me? It means that I don't have to go and work for somebody else. And it sounds like, hey, I discovered I'm really good at this thing and I enjoy helping people and I make even more money, which allows me to do even more investing and more wonderful things.
mhm. Yeah. And I didn't want to live off of $3,000 a month forever. Like
Mhm.
I was 26, but maybe I was dumb, but I wasn't like that dumb. I could see that I wanted to have a wife. I wanted to have a family. I wanted to have a nice home. Never really cared about nice cars or anything like that. But, those things cost money. And so I was like, I want to just continue to build the passive income so that way when God puts these things in my life, I can absorb them,
No.
right? And I think that's yeah, that was my thought.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, a question I'd love to ask people, especially those who are, have achieved that, hey, I'm financially independent, right? Is to what end? Now, you and I are surrounded by lots of highly successful people, and you are highly successful. So you are one of those people. Like, but it's
Thank you.
like, to what end? And we both know people where they just keep going, going, going because they didn't really have clarity as to what they were trying to achieve. So I'm curious to you, like, to what end do you continue on the path?
That's a great question, Julie. And I'm going to tell you my answer now, but it could totally change in 2 months, right? And so, like right now, we live in we bought a home that we see ourselves living in for a long time. We bought it in the early 2022, knowing that prices would go up or rates would go down, or basically that the market conditions would not continue to improve. And so we bought and we're here for a while. And so, like because we did that, we got locked in at a low interest rate. I mean, I would be okay. Like I'd be okay retiring today, honestly, right? But we'd be kind of like just scraping by. Like it wouldn't be that comfortable. We'd have to be kind of like looking at our expenses. We definitely elevated our lifestyle. Um, I essentially passed off my financial independence to my wife. So, now I've been able to bless my wife and she's blessed me 10x of what I've blessed her. But now she's not having to work or anything like that, and so she's doing her thing. I'm here now working on myself again and getting to that level of, hey, if we can have everything that we have, if we can basically, I like to get to a place of my passive income is double our expenses. That's when I would feel like, okay, I feel comfortable enough where I can maybe not work anymore. But again, I like talking to you. I like hanging out, right? Like a lot of the stuff that's work
Right.
that I'd probably say no to, like if what in retirement, I like doing some of this stuff. So yeah.
That's what I always make when I have these conversations of myself, right? It's like, but I love what I do and I'm around really great people and it's a lot of fun. Like, why would I stop doing this? I get to help people. This is so much fun. So that resonates deeply with me. And yeah. So then I love that you even have a formula in a sense for wealth, like, hey, when I can do this, that's the financial number. What is it in life though that you really want to generate? Like 80-year-old Craig is looking back basically, like what is that version?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the thing that's on my mind right now that I keep thinking of is just like the parable of the talents, where like it's just screaming in my head of God has given me X amount of talents. I want to double or 10x that and give it back to him. And so by just sitting back on our laurels and just not doing anything, you just become weak, right? A man who doesn't work doesn't eat. A man like there's all these kind of things in life that it's like you need to continue to strain yourself. You need to continue to work. And so even if I wasn't working for money, I know for sure like if I could if I wanted to and just like retire right now, I would be outside working on the yard. Like I would be outside building up the homestead. I'd be outside working. I wouldn't be like sitting at home playing Call of Duty, you know? So
It's interesting what that looks like. Okay, a question that I don't often ask, but I'm inclined more often now to ask, which is a definition for wealth. And because people define this in different ways, I've heard some people recently say there's a difference between being rich and being wealthy. Rich is usually showy, flashy, and seamy, and being wealthy is more grounded and comfortable. So I just curious, like, and that also translates into talents. And I want to dovetail back into talents in a moment, but let's go into your concept of what does wealth mean to you?
yeah, wealth means to me like you can do whatever you want, whenever you want, with whoever you want in a reasonable way. That's not flashy and not have to think twice about it. And so I do believe that I'm there. I do believe I'm sure you're there. Like if we wanted to go to Hawaii next month for 2 weeks because we just wanted to, we could do that and it wouldn't break us, right? And so like I think to me that's kind of, what wealth is. And it's not just making money. It's do you have investments that are producing for you while you're sleeping, right?
Mhm.
It's basically increasing your dollar per hour to be almost infinite.
I love it. I love it. I said I wanted to go back to the portion about talents, and that's interesting. I've been thinking a lot. In fact, Ryan Holiday talks about the parable of the talents in his book "Right Thing, Right Now," his most recent book on Stoicism, and it's something I had actually read recently enough. So it keeps coming back across my, making passes in front of me, and that concept of I have this talent that's unique to me. What do I do with it? And if I'm going to just let it sit there and do nothing, I consider that a one talent person. It doesn't mature and grow into anything, and doesn't serve anyone well. So I want to be the five talent guy, right? Like I want to be that one. So I think that's interesting. What do you think your greatest talent is? Your greatest gifting or contribution?
Yeah, and obviously we know that like talent in the Bible is just a form of currency. I think we
Yes.
we translate it today into like what God has given us, and I still think I'll translate it into that. And I think what God has given me is He's given me a family that supports me, a wife that loves me and understands entrepreneurship, and so she never gets mad at me if I need to hop out at 9 p.m. or on the weekend to do something real quick. And He's given me like the ability to really love people and to talk to people and just become friendly and become trustworthy. And so that's kind of what I just try to dive into is like I just want to like make some good friends. I want to make people happy. I want to present people with opportunities that they may not have been able to see before. And and then just double down on that and then help people achieve our whole team mission is to reduce the US retirement age. from 65 to 55. And so like we want to do that. That's like our big, hairy, audacious goal.
That's such a good goal. That's so cool. And I always think about, like you were talking about with retirement. So for me, I always think, um, I don't know that I'll ever retire in the traditional sense of I'm going to just like stop working and do things for pleasure, basically. And that's what my life is focused on at that point. My idea is like, I'm going to do what I love. I'm just going to keep doing what I love all my life. And it really truly is that I do work technically. Yes, I do work, but I'm doing a labor of love of something that's so part of who I am that I'm like, I just want to keep doing this. This is really rad helping people. It's interesting, like dropping that age. And I think how many more people, if they could free themselves financially so that they could live into that they could live into the talents, skills, abilities, and everything that they've been gifted with. Most people don't do that throughout their working years. They wait to do that, or they might not do it at all. So I love your BHAG. Really great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that was my long way of saying like high fives. I love it. I absolutely love it. How how did working at Bigger Pockets impact your journey, if at all?
Yeah. But working at Bigger Pockets had a total, again, that was another big inflection point in my life. I was surrounded at the time. It was Josh Dorkin running it. Brandon was like Brandon was just the Brandon. I mean, I don't even know what he was, but he was there, right? Not there in person, but we met, we interacted over Zoom quite a bit. Scott Trench, who's the now CEO, was like my first mentor. And, it was just motivating being around all those people that were investing and it just like gave me all the confidence in the world to go forward with my investments that I was making. And I had someone kind of holding my hand through my first investment. And it was great. And, over time, I think they realized that I was a huge fan of theirs. I loved real estate and I could do finance, but they could find a better finance person than me. And so, our departure was very amicable. We're still on great terms and everything like that. But we both could sense that we needed to go in different directions. And so I ended up, graduating is what we call it. I had a graduation ceremony and everything from Bigger Pockets. And that's when I went full time. But I guess one thing I'll say is that while at Bigger Pockets, they had the Bigger Pockets blog. And I don't know if it's still really popular, but it was really popular at the time. And I had the opportunity to write for it. And not at the time, not everybody could. And so it was just like, if you were an employee, you can write for the blog. I was the only one out of like 20 or 30 people at the time that would consistently write for the blog. And so I went to Scott, and Scott was coming out with his book Set for Life at the time. And I was like, hey, I want to write a book someday. And he was like, okay, well, why don't you start writing for the blog, write for the blog once a week, every week. And then maybe someday, if there's an opportunity, you might be able to write a book for us. Like, no guarantees, not getting paid to write for the blog, and it had to be on my own time, not on Bigger Pockets' watch.
Okay.
And so I did that. I wrote like 50 or 60 blog posts for them. And then I got the opportunity to write the house hacking strategy, which many of you guys might know. And that was the biggest inflection point because that gave me at least a little bit of credibility that I knew what I was talking about with house hacking. And then I was able to help so many more people in their house hacking journey.
That I've never heard that part of the story and how that came about. And that makes the book even better. And I'm glad you went there because I wanted to talk about house hacking and how that played into your investing journey. And by the way, Super Ed Steve and I, Conscious Investor, we were talking recently about making a geographical move, not too far from where we are right now, but we're like, dang, maybe we should take advantage and try to find a small multifamily and house hack it and just suck it up for a year. Like, put your ego aside and like get another investment out of a transition. So let's talk about the conscious investor may not be familiar with house hacking. So let's talk about what is house hacking and how did you utilize that to build your investment portfolio?
Yeah. So house hacking is the best way to invest, period.
Agreed.
But what it is you buy a house, a 1 to 4 unit property with typically 3 to 5% down. You have to live in it for 1 year. And while you're living there, you can rent out the other parts of the house to subsidize or totally cover your mortgage. And it's a great way for you just to start building wealth. And then after that year is up, you can move and do it again. And you do it again and you do it again. And the reason why I prefaced it with it is the best real estate strategy is because you can consistently get returns in the 100% or higher every single time. There's no other asset class, there's no other investment, there's nothing else out there in the world that you can consistently achieve 100% or more ROIs every time. And so that's why I think it's the best. I know it's the best. It's not even a question.
It's not even a question. So how many house hacks have you actually done? And let's start there. How many have you done?
So I personally have done 6, but I've been a part of 8 total because my wife also did 2.
Okay.
And so yeah, we've done it 8 times.
Do you still own those properties?
All except one. We sold one of them.
How did that feel? Is that like a bittersweet? Every time it's always interesting when people sell off, something like.
I only sell off ones that I hate. So no, it was amazing when I sold it.
Why'd you?
Yeah, I tried never to sell. The thing is I thought this deal was going to be the deal of the century, and it ended up being horrible because it was just kind of lied to by the previous seller, and there were some massive structural issues that happened, and so I was funneling lots and lots and lots of money into this thing, and by the grace of God, we had the COVID appreciation, and I ended up breaking even. But like in any other market condition, I would have lost tremendous amounts of money. I just had to sell it before it got worse.
Hallelujah for the COVID appreciation, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's really awesome. And then just as we wrap up, let's just talk about where are you going? Like, what do you want to do more of over the next year? Because to your point earlier, you said my answer could change in 2 months. We're always growing as people, and there are circumstances in life that change. So, like with what you have right now, like what is it you'd like to do more of over the next year or so?
Yeah. So we're growing our team of investor friendly agents. And I guess you don't even have to be investor friendly anymore. But once you join our team, it's only a matter of time before you become investor friendly. Um, and so, we're growing that team. We're growing, and that's really exciting. So I want to make sure that that's kind of like the number one. Number 2 is we're growing a property management company that's a co-living, rent by the room property management. It's a great way that you can achieve cash flow in high appreciating markets like Denver, for example. And on the investment side, I've been partnering with a lot of people wanting to do house hacks all around the country to help them buy their first house hacks. And so sometimes it looks like I'm helping them a little bit with the down payment. Sometimes I'm helping them just on a consulting basis. But in some way, there's a partnership there where we're able to grow. I want to eliminate all the barriers for people to house hack because I just truly think it is, like I said, the best return on investment. And even if it means partnering with somebody, you're still able to achieve returns far higher than you would if you're not doing it at all. So
That's so cool. I love that. And I love the idea of, I just love all your ideas. So lots of rabbit holes that I want to go down. But we can save that for another time. Or maybe we'll just do an impromptu recording at the Conscious Investor Growth Summit, or do a quick little discussion in front of everybody. I'm not sure where we'll take this, but I'm so
yeah,
grateful.
all of it sounds
Yeah,
great.
I know. All of the above. Yes to all of that. So,
Yeah,
Craig, I appreciate you and just you're inspirational in what you do, how you do it, the heart behind what you do. And honestly, it would have been easy on one hand to just stay in the whole venture, debt arena years ago. You would have lost your soul, it sounds like. But you could have made a lot of money. And so I always value when people want the money, want the monetary wealth, could also want to sleep at night and want integrity and want, greater things in their personal lives. So thank you for being a role model on that. Thank you for being a role model to, and a pioneer for young adults, because it's really, we need more of that.
100%. Thank you so much, Julie. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for inviting me on the show. Even though you had a tumultuous kind of 24 hours here, so I appreciate your persistence.
The persistence that pays off. Yes, just a reminder, conscious investor. I didn't say it at the beginning, but since you stayed around, yeah, we have had no power in far north Idaho. So I hauled down to another city, and Craig and I are technically probably 15, 20 minutes apart from each other now geographically down in the Coeur d'Alene-ish area. And so and that's all about connections and network and being able to reach out to a friend and say, hey, do you have space at your co-work space? Can I come rent it? Kids, get in the car. Let's haul down. Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I knew, honestly, I'm like, I don't want to have to reschedule this with Craig. It's too important. This is an important conversation for the conscious investor to have at their disposal. So thank you for for being you and bringing all the joy.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Julie. Great to see you as always.
Yeah. One last thing. Let's give the conscious investor where are they going to go to connect up with you, and where do you want them to buy your book? Because if you have not house hacks and conscious investor, that was the very first thing that I did. And it didn't have that name 20 whatever years ago. So, all that to say, it is one of the most powerful investing strategies you can possibly deploy. So let's get them like into your ecosystem, into your book. Let's level them up.
Yeah, so the book you can buy it pretty much anywhere. Amazon obviously is a good place. If you want Bigger Pockets has some little extra, and we have some freebies if you buy it through Bigger Pockets. So you can go to biggerpockets.com. You can go to Amazon. You can follow me on Instagram. I'm the Fi Guy. If you shoot me a DM and you let me know that you heard me on this podcast, I'll for sure get back to you. And yeah, and if you come to the Conscious Investor Growth Summit in March, I'll be there, and so I would love to meet anybody face to face. And I'll be there. I forget how many days it is, 2, 3 days, but I'll be there for all of it. So I'm excited.
You definitely want to be there, and you definitely want to buy a VIP ticket because you'll have just more opportunities to just be alone with Craig and the other speakers. And already it's not a huge event. It's 150 tickets. That's that. I like that size event. I value the type of meaningful connections you can actually make throughout an event. So you want to come, you want to get those VIP tickets, and then you want to come hang out with Craig and me and all the other amazing speakers that are there to serve you. They all have such big hearts. All right, Craig, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for your time today. And Conscious Investor, thank you for taking time to listen. Remember to leave an honest rating and review. Let us know what you took away from this, and please share it with someone that you care about. Until next time, cheers to your health, your mindset, and your wealth.